He threw a leg across that iron horse and pulled the throttle down. A million things rushing through his mind like that rumbling sound. Living life in his own eyes, direction isn't clear. So searching all these years.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Answers from Mars Hill. This is Pastor Ski of the Rushing Wind Biker Church out in Holbrook, New York. I want to welcome you to today's show. And we're coming up to Easter, coming out of the winter. It's an exciting time of year. You know, spring is in the air, as they say. Today, I think, is looks like the end of the cold, real cold. We're going to start getting into warmer weather, getting on our motorcycles. We're looking forward to our Easter sunrise run, and if we don't get some rain, we should have a pretty huge run this year. And we've had as many as 125 motorcycles, crazy people coming out at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to ride out to the beach. So we're excited, and you know, we've been talking about the last couple of weeks about this thing called salvation that the Christian faith is based on. And we've had a couple of shows that we talked about, you know, what do we need to be saved from? And I think last week it was about how did we get to this point where humanity is a total disaster, that we actually need saving. And so as we creep week to week towards Easter Sunday, Palm Sunday, Easter Sunday, Good Friday, I want to continue kind of progressing in this this thought about what Easter, what Jesus is all about, why he came, maybe a little more of the understanding of what makes the Christian faith different than other spiritualities and other religions. And so, you know, I want to maybe unwrap a lot of things that maybe some people out there that aren't believers or in other faiths, you know, understand a little more about why this is such a, I don't know, powerful faith, an empowered faith, why Jesus, even outside of Christianity, is at least looked at as a man of God, a very wise teacher, prophet, or whatever you might consider him, and why he stands out above really all others. And so, exciting time of year. As I said, we've had a couple of conversations leading into this, and right now the world needs a lot of help. And so faith conversations like this, I think people are looking for something to grab onto. You know, hopelessness isn't getting any better. If anything, we've kind of realized with this pandemic and the social unrest and the chaos that is really all over the globe at this point, that, you know, if this is all there is on this earth and humanity and the way it is, are we spiraling into really the end of ourselves? You know, if you really look at the intensity of what's going on in the world, not just our country, we have enough problems in our country, but those are, you know, kind of relegated to interpersonal, interracial, you know, class things in our country. But you look at what's going on around the world with, you know, the nuclearization of Iran, which seems like it possibly could be an inevitable situation. We look at Israel now. Now that America has kind of shifted course, Israel has been talking about how they're going to have to take matters into their own hands with Iran if they don't have other nations to back them, because Iran's whole existence is to wipe out Israel. That's what they're all about, what they've always been all about, the religious war between the two of them. And, you know, China and Syria and Russia, I mean, everything is just getting out of hand in a much greater global capacity than we've ever seen. So it's easy to look at our country and see how bad our country is, but there's a much bigger thing going on. And, you know, always be encouraged that no matter how big things seem here, even in our own life and our own country, God is so much bigger than everything that's going on. You know, the creator of the universe, the creator of all the stars, the moon, the galaxies, the things that are just out there we don't even know about yet. He's bigger than all that. And so what goes on here, though, it might seem very dramatic and huge in our small perspective. Understand that God is much bigger. And once you come to an understanding of that, God is good. And He's got a lot of things that can help us have hope. Get through this life, transition into whatever comes after this, and maybe be at peace. Be able to live, have some joy, have some purpose, some meaning, uh, enjoy this experience as much as we can in the dark things that are going on. And so be encouraged that there is a God out there that still loves everyone and can change everything on a dime. And so, yeah, we talked about last week about how we got this way, and talked about the whole premise of as man disconnects from God, how what's called the passive wrath of God has really taken hold, particularly in our country, and all the things that we see falling apart, the the moral breakup, the gender issues, the marriage issues, children going crazy, sickness all over the place. This is really our own doing because we have disconnected from the source of all things good. And you know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that we're just spiraling out of control. And in my estimation, you know, we live in a world that has a religion of secular humanism and also Darwinian evolution. It's the theology of the day, and I don't know about you, but I don't see this humanity evolving. If anything, since the day we were created, it's been downhill since then. We're getting worse and worse. We're becoming more like animals, and it kind of doesn't sound like evolution if you think about it. But today we're going to talk about a premise in this Christian faith called resurrection life. You know, we know that Easter Sunday is the day we celebrate the day that Jesus walked out of the grave, rising from the dead. And there's this term that's used in Christianity and Christian theology called resurrection life, and what that actually is. And it's something that we as followers and true believers of Jesus Christ, who have him as our Lord, our King, walk in a life that's described in the Bible as resurrection life, a new creation. We have the phrase that actually Jesus said himself called born again. And, you know, we're born as humans into this life. And then there's another birth that brings a different life, a new life, and a life that we were always meant to live and what we were originally created in. That's why it's called resurrection life, because it's a life that once was and was to be, actually now can be realized once more. And so after a couple of words from our sponsors, I want to get a little more towards the understanding of why Jesus rising from the dead had a lot of important implications on understanding who we are, what we are, what it is to be fully human, and how to move into the best life that we can have, because that's really what God sent Jesus to give us. So we're going to talk about this premise called resurrection life when we come back after a few words from our sponsors.
Hey everybody, this is Motorcycle Mike, the personal injury lawyer. I've been riding motorcycles my entire adult life. During the course of my 30-year career as a lawyer, I've also represented countless injured motorcyclists. If you are one of them, I can be of assistance to you. go to my website, please, motorcyclemikeesq.com. I'll always be there for you. I'm on your side when you ride.
Welcome back to our show. It's Pastor Ski, and we're starting a conversation on this thing called resurrection life, which is part of our Christian faith. Something that may be spiritualists and people that are into spirituality, they sometimes I think may have a little better grasp on than Christians do at times. So when Jesus came and he was sent to live among us, he came to first live as we are, as a regular human. When he came, he was fully human. And so he lived with us, among us, showing us, first that he was like us, one of us, with the same frailties, the same flesh and blood that we have, going through the same existence. And up until when Jesus came, all of life that we knew as a human was kind of, we understood that you live, life can be hard, you have things you can achieve, you have things that feel good, things that feel bad, and you have evil, and you have good, and then you play out your years and you die. And life was lived based on that understanding. And so when Jesus came, he came to show us that we are not just flesh and blood creatures. Spirituality and the Spirit of God and things were kind of understood in a way back then that it was out of us. It was beyond what we are ourselves, and we were separate from it. And what Jesus came, and everything he talked about and everything he preached, and even through his miracles and through things he would do, like casting demons out of another, someone who was demon-possessed, was to help us understand that we're more than just flesh and blood, that we have soul and spirit, and that there are two entities that are in conflict a lot. And he wanted us to understand that we live in this existence called our spiritual realm. And the way I kind of see it, and I think can be understood, is our emotions, how we feel, what makes us feel good. We have tangible things, and we have how those tangible things make us feel. Emotions, things that science can never get a grasp on, because it's like grabbing smoke. You just can't grab it. You can't hold love in your hands. You can't hold hate and fear in your hands, but they're as real as, the skin you have and the heart you have. And so Jesus came to let us know that we are more than this. But what he came to do is in the life he lived, the perfect life. And I think, you don't have to be a Christian to like how Jesus lived his life. It wasn't what Jesus did that got him in trouble. It's what he said. He fed people. He healed people. He loved people. There was nobody that was untouchable. There was nobody that was a low enough class to be out of his realm of having compassion and love and commonality. And so he came to show us really the perfect way to live a human life. And then, the things he said are the things that got him in trouble, when he said that, he was God, and he condemned people for really ravaging other people and being evil and judging and all these things that, we know are just not good for the human interaction, the human condition. And so this thing called resurrected life, what Jesus wanted us to understand, what God wanted us to understand, is he always meant us to live as a total community of humans walking this earth as Jesus walked the earth. But the brokenness of this world, and last week what happened to us, has made it this cannot can go on forever. And so when Jesus was in our realm and fell victim to the hate, to the jealousy, to the condemnation, to the pain, the suffering, the bleeding, and the eventual dying, he showed us that he was human. And he played out his life the way the human life gets played out. You live, you have good times, bad times, you have joy, you have peace, you have pain, you have suffering, you have loss, and then eventually you die. But what happened 3 days after that is really what shifted everything. Because when Jesus came back to life, what happened was that dead body, which was the same as all of ours, the spirit he had came back into it. The Spirit of God that empowered that body. And that Spirit of God is the Spirit he walked in, the Spirit of compassion and love and peace and serving and not judging and caring and healing and feeding. That Spirit came back in him, and he walked out of that tomb once again human. And his body was transformed, and that's a conversation maybe for another day. But what he wanted to make clear was the life he lived and the spirit he walked in, that he was, his compassion, his character. That spirit cannot be killed. And when it re-entered his body, he showed us what could be with that character and that spirit, and walking in this life empowered by, we were created in the image and likeness of God. And that when in this human body, we walk with that spirit, we have what's called resurrected life. It's a life that can never die. It's peace that can last forever. And that's what he came to show us. So this concept of resurrection life, it's that goodness of what was always meant to be as a human was now resurrected after generations and generations and 5,000 years, 3,000 years, 4,000 years of us spiraling into this death existence, that Jesus resurrected us with the possibility of stepping back into once was. So I want to bring my producer Bobby in and talk about, as a Catholic, another believer in Jesus, how he sees this particular, which is the all empowering thought of Christianity. So how are we doing, Bobby?
We are doing good, and I must admit this is a very deep subject. It's a lot, and it's like I said, I understand everything that you're saying, and it's quite a lot to take in. What happened and this resurrected life. As far as us, how many people do you feel like reach this resurrected life, actually attain it, and understand?
How many people?
Yeah, well, does everybody get it, or only certain people are getting it? It's
right. When Jesus walked the earth, and after he got baptized, he had God's Spirit in him, and then he was fully human, fully God at the same time. We have to remember that Jesus faced the same temptations we face.
Mm-hmm.
He walked in the same broken world, seeing things. When he was crucified, he'd already seen people crucified, so he'd seen it. And we know that right after he was baptized, he was brought out into the wilderness to be tempted. And, a 40-day fast where he was starving, and he was tempted with food, tempted with power, tempted with position. And what happens when we get what the Bible calls quickened, when we step into this faith in Jesus through what's called what Jesus calls being born again, we're transformed, and we now have this resurrected life, and so we have the power within us to face everything the way Jesus faced it. The drawback we have is we didn't start in perfection as Jesus did. So Jesus was born without what the Catholics call original sin, because he didn't have an earthly father, and sin is passed through the father lineage. It goes back to Genesis. And so we have this thing we have to battle, and so it's a process with us. We've gone through this humanity sinning, making mistakes, maybe being evil. No matter how old we are. I've talked about in the past, we're born with that. I mean, you look at a 3-year-old kid fighting over toys. I mean, we started this way. It's not like, one day we learned how to be evil. We were evil in the beginning. And so the thing is, we are progressing to be like Jesus, and we have resurrected life in us, meaning we have the Spirit in us that can fight these things, and the ability to be good, the ability to love those who hate us, serve those who use us, which is exactly what Jesus did. The ability to do miraculous things, as we tie into this faith and we start to realize what God has placed in us. And so, because of the fact that we have this other nature that we've had, the sin gene or whatever it is that Jesus didn't have because he didn't have a human father, we have to fight through this with the help of Jesus, which his Spirit is in us. And so we have his resurrected life in us fighting this flesh that we've been born in. And so resurrection life is there from the moment. We have to work on how to access the power that's in that.
And that's exactly what I was trying to say, is like, I understand it, but then I immediately look within myself and I say, wait a minute, I'm not really living the resurrected life. Like, I understand, and it's in me, but I'm admittingly not living it fully or to its potential.
Well, we're not going to live its potential until we're in glory, and we're out of this rat hole that we're in right now.
Yeah, but we should be really living it as best we can here, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, I know that I'm not. And that really made me think, and I'm like, you always have to look within yourself too before
Absolutely.
you look at, So
Absolutely.
I immediately looked at myself and I says, wow. I says, I understand it, but I'm not really. I could say I'm living the resurrected life, but I'm really not. And I wonder how many other people are in the same position I am. It's there, like you said, it's there for us, but we're not accessing it. We're not really living it.
Well, that's the thing is you've seen things in your life where you get glimpses. You'll get things that you see in yourself that you never had before. And the way you react to things, the way your character is, your emotional things, how maybe you don't have the fear you used to have, you don't have the anger you used to have in certain circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is we have two lives going on. We have this flesh, our old man, like the Bible talks about, and then we have this new man, which is our resurrected life, and they're battling each other. And it's like anything else. The one that you feed, the one that you have work out and discipline is the one that's going to get stronger. So I think we're coming to the end of this first segment. We'll continue this right after a few words from our sponsors. And I want to touch on that. You touched on a very good premise of how we need to understand what resurrected life is. So we'll be back in a few minutes with Answers from Mars Hill. Hi, everyone. Pastor Ski here, and I want to thank you for watching our program. I want to just tell you about two resources that I have for you, sources of encouragement. I've lived a very challenging life, and God has allowed me to go through a lot of things, and I've written 2 books. The first one is called The Fear of Life. This is kind of my life story of a very hard childhood, very dark childhood, dark family life, and how God redeemed my life from it, how he showed me life when I thought that life wasn't available. And then I wrote this book called No Sting when I went through my battle with terminal cancer, and how God healed me, how He enlightened me, strengthened me, and made a big difference in my life. And both of these very encouraging resources, sources of inspiration. If you know people who are struggling, people who have hard lives, or people that are struggling with cancer, they would be probably a good resource. And if you would like to purchase one of these books, you can go to barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com, and the Zulon Press bookstore. And I appreciate your support, and get these out and help a lot of people. God bless you all, and I'll see you down the road. Welcome back to our show, and me and Bobby have been in this conversation about having an understanding about what resurrection life is. And as you know, sitting here thinking between during the commercial break, it's part of the problem that outside of the Christian realm has to get an understanding in what this faith is all about. Is it's not the vast majority of Christians that actually have grabbed onto this and stepped into it and really dug into the life that they have available to them. And so people look in and they see a lot of struggling people. They see people that are hypocritical, which we're all hypocrites. We all make mistakes, and we all say we're this, and we can make a mistake, and that's just the way we are because we're broken people. But the whole idea of this resurrection life that we've been talking about that Jesus gave us is we have the potential to raise up like a bodybuilder. Matter of fact, I have a friend who's a pastor who wrote a book called The Bodybuilder, and it's how we build up our spiritual man, or what we're talking about is now the part of our life that God intended that He introduced us to, that's been planted in us, and how we can build our spiritual muscles, and how we can experience and walk in this life. And that resurrected life is made available to us once we step into this faith. And so how much we can be empowered by it, how much we can walk in the victory of it, and even show it to other people, totally up to us. Doesn't mean it's not there. And Bobby, you want to come in?
Surely.
And we were talking about how we all, even Paul says, "Oh, what a wretched man I am," and that's Paul. Now, this guy wrote 40% of the New Testament, and he didn't have it.
Yeah.
So it's not about looking at yourself and saying, "Do I have resurrected life?" It's a matter of looking at yourself and say, "I want more than I already have."
Yeah.
Bobby?
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's more, I think it goes back to really, it's a journey, It's like just getting to that point, getting as close to Jesus as we can be, as far as, who we are and how we should be treating people on this earth. And we know, like you said before, I think in between the break, Jesus laid down the blueprint. Mm-hmm. So we know it. Here's the blueprint. Jesus told us everything to do, but we still don't do it. He gives us resurrected life, but we still don't use it to the fullest. So my point is, it just seems like it's a something that keeps cycling back to, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen immediately. It is a journey, and some of us take longer, and some of us will get there sooner. But it really is something that we have to really instill, and we have to nurture, and we have to grow it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we need to kind of think, and this is kind of a cliche-ish kind of thing, that we're not who we want to be, but we're not what we used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And we still strive because we want to keep living this life out better and better. And there's two benefits of that. Number one, we're just going to have a much more joy-filled life, a lot more peace. We're going to be able to accomplish more. And I mean, really accomplish deep down in our soul. We feel like we're contributing to this humanity for God. But also we'll accomplish more. We'll be more comfortable in this life. We'll feel more powerful in this life. And so internally, we're going to feel more life. And that's just, like, it's just great when you feel life within you start to to blossom in you, to grow in you, and to become bigger, you know. And when you can see that the life that's in you is now affecting other people for their betterment and hopefully for their, eternal benefit, it's a win-win. But it takes diligence. It takes drawing close, understanding. It's like trying to get a PhD in something. Well, you got to open the books, you got to study, you got to think about it, you got to do the math problems to learn the math. And so all these things that are part of learning anything, this life's been placed in our lap, but we don't know how to use this. We don't know how to empower it. And it's and even the Bible, it explains what this life is, but it also explains that it's a progress. Paul calls it a race. And, as we get closer to the finish line, we get better and better. We get stronger and stronger. Working out our salvation. There's all kinds of ways it's described of just getting better and become more like Jesus. And that sounds, to people not in a Christian faith, that sounds like, a very religious statement, becoming more like Jesus. But if you look at Jesus as the perfect example of the best, most fulfilling, most joy-filled, and most peace-filled human life, that's what we're striving to become.
Exactly.
Jesus is the ideal, more than he's one man. We know him as the way of life, the best way of life. We know him as the truth, which is a powerful thing I'm preaching through a lot in church right now, that he is the truth about everything in this existence that we live in, and what's true to be a human being. And he is the life. The life he lives is the life that's the best life there is. And so that's what we want to attain, because that is resurrected life. Like I said, outside of the Christian realm, nobody views Jesus as a bad person. Nobody didn't like what he did. Everybody loves what he did. They didn't like some of the things he said. But it's the same thing today. You mention God, you mention Jesus, you mention what's sin or things that we shouldn't be doing, and people go, don't be telling me how to live my life. And all it is trying to tell you there's a way to live a better life. And that's what resurrected life is.
Yeah, and that's the hard part too. A lot of us don't want to be told how to live. It's something that we have to, humble ourselves a little bit more, and understand that we should be living a lot better. We should be living this resurrected life more to its, to its fullest. But yeah, it's not easy. You said something. You said some sort of phrase, and it reminded me, which is kind of the same thing. It's just like somebody said, being a Christian doesn't make me better than you, but it does make me better person than I was before.
No, exactly.
So.
And something you mentioned before about life being a journey. We need a map. We know where we are. And there's a destination. Destination is the most fulfilling, most joy-filled, most peace-filled, promising life. That's the treasure. But we don't have a map. Jesus is the map.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we want to take a detour. And we think that that's a more exciting path, but that's not the best path. And you could end up just going off a cliff because the mountains look great and the sky looks great and that river looks great, and you're not watching where you're going and you go off a cliff.
Yeah.
And Jesus is the roadmap to get to where we all want to be.
It's like GPS.
Absolutely.
I was listening to, and it's true. It's like. I forget who said this. Somebody was referring to like Jesus, like it's like a GPS system. It's like when we have our GPS and we know where we're supposed to go, it's like when we make a wrong turn, the GPS continuously reroutes us,
Right.
So Jesus is always, no matter where we go, he's always trying, trying to lead us in the right
Absolutely.
direction, but he doesn't force us, so we make these wrong turns and we have to learn from them. But ultimately, we're trying to get to Jesus, and sometimes we we go in a direction, like you said, we're not supposed to go, but it's about getting back on track and continuing our path, And ultimately we got to get there. That's the goal.
That's that the GPS thing is a very powerful metaphor because the Bible talks about a path, like the perfect path for our life. And the reality of it is there's literally hundreds of perfect paths for us. There's one that we have today, and if we walk it, it'll be the best perfect path. But like you said, it's like a GPS, because some people are under the impression if they go off and they get into a dark place in their life that there's no hope for them. And so at any moment in time, you go off and you create problems in your life, and your life has issues, and you know you're not in God's will, and all of a sudden you want to get back. Well, it's like a GPS. And so now from wherever you have become, wherever you've gone off, God now still has a perfect path from that spot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like your GPS recalculating.
Yeah.
It's exactly what God does. Every time we go off, don't condemn yourself that you screwed up, but just listen to God and seek Him again, and the GPS will reroute your journey.
Yeah, because the GPS doesn't start yelling at you and saying, "Hey, stupid, where you going? I told you to go this way." It'll just keep sending us. Jesus is saying, "I'm here for you. Come to me." But he's not going to force us, and we have to ultimately get on that path to Him and get there as soon as we can. I guess everybody's different. Some people get there a little sooner. Some people take every second of their life to get there. But He's always there for us. He's always there. No matter where we are, no matter how dark, no matter where we detoured and how low we got and how off course we got, He's always there.
Absolutely. It's we all mess up.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of us messes up. And, you just kind of learn when things are good and how God is God is with you. Doesn't mean life is easy, but it means that you're going through it and you know that there's a purpose and you know that that good things can happen and you see Him working through even the hard things, that you want to stay there. Because I think I talked about this last week or the week before. There's a scripture, Romans 8:28, that most Christians know by heart, that God... all things work together for good for those who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. All things work for good when you're in that place. People that don't have God, all things don't work for good. That is totally meaningless. Don't even quote that at people that don't have faith, because it's only people who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. And so when we have this faith, we have promises, and promises always are fulfilled. If we're walking in the way God has us to walk, what He says is going to happen, and what we're going to accomplish and what He's doing will always come to being. So resurrection life. As we step into this Easter season, we need to know exactly what Jesus came to give us, not just to take us out of what we used to be, but let us understand there's a better us we could be right now. And that's what resurrected life is. So when we come back from this next break, I'll have my word for the week and give maybe a little more biblical exposition of what resurrection life is and the life that God always wanted you to live. And so we'll be back in a few minutes with the word for the week.
Hey everybody, this is Motorcycle Mike, the personal injury lawyer. In addition to representing injured motorcyclists for over 30 years now, during that same time, I've represented countless car crash victims and construction workers injured on construction sites. If you need my assistance, go to my website, motorcyclemikeesq.com. I will always be there for you.
Oh, 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 oh.
Welcome back to Answers from Mars Hill, and this is the word for the week. Salvation is the premise of our Christian faith. Resurrection from the dead is what Jesus did on Easter Sunday, the event that really establishes the whole Christian faith. See, our faith is not in a philosophy or a belief system. See, Christianity is really the results of one moment in time, a historical act that happened when a man walked out of the grave. And what he did was he rose from the dead and he gave us what we call resurrection life. And what is that? We've been talking about that on our show, in a little conversation me and Bobby have had about what it means to be a Christian, what this life. Now, Jesus said, "I came to give you life, and life more abundant." And we read all the descriptions of what Jesus said life could be. And this resurrection life is really what God had intended for us all along to live. You know, we've talked about over the last couple of weeks this dark humanity we live in. Where's the redeeming qualities that are left in this human race, as we find every way to disparage it and damage each other and attack each other, have bigotry against each other. And God never intended that. And we've just spiraled out of control. And the gospel that we believe, and when we think about why Jesus came, so God wanted to give us time to be able to see ourselves for what we are. The Bible says that at just the right time, God sent His Son. And so there was premeditation on God's part about when Jesus would invade our humanity. And we needed to see just how bad we could be. And that has a benefit, and it also has a drawback, because we've been so far from what we were meant to be. You know, we talk about righteousness, we talk about goodness, we talk about all the attributes that God said, and we're so far from it, and we've accepted this level of what we call life, which is really at its best no more than existence and survival. But we use this word life, and it's such a meager, really, life that we have. And Jesus came to give us something far better. And, you know, throw away all the theological differences in the spiritualities and the religions that are out there. I think everybody wants to have a good, peace-filled, fulfilling, promising, a life filled with vision, dreams, a future. And that's so far from the reality of life in modern day humanity. You know, even in America, which is much better, as much as you might want to disparage our country right now, so much better than so many other areas of the world. And God came to give us a much better life. Jesus, as I mentioned earlier on the show, gave us an example as he walked and he taught and he fed people that needed food, and he healed people that needed healing, and he delivered people from demonic oppression, mental anguish, spiritual emotional anguish, which is what demon possession really embodies. And he showed us what we all could be. And it was such a drastic a drastic, shocking difference of what we are, that not only did we not believe it, but because seeing him showed us ourselves, we had to kill him. We had to get this out of our realm, because it made us all see how bad we were. That's why Jesus was killed. You know, I mean, he did nothing but help and serve and show compassion and peace. And we had to get rid of that, because it made us all look at ourselves. It's one of the challenges of looking at this Christian faith, stepping into this Christian faith. Is the first step is we need to look at ourselves, see exactly what we are, and look at Jesus and say, I don't know if I can believe that that's what we can be. But when Jesus walked out of the grave, after living a human life just like us, had his heart broken, cried tears, shed blood, felt pain, felt depression, felt everything we felt, fear, and he walked out of the grave. It was an example to us of when you have the life, character, the thoughts, the emotions, caring, the love. It's really what it's all about. You can't kill that. That's what Jesus showed us. And that character, those attributes, are really only available to someone to have them step into that realm when you have something bigger than yourself that overwhelms you, overcomes you, and you surrender to it. Because everything in our earthly flesh and everything in the way we're wired and how the world and its brokenness has rewired us, we just want to be like everybody else. I want what's mine. It hurts people. Well, it's life. It's life. It's funny the words we use sometimes. It's life. It's life to you, but it's death to the one you have to use and get over to feel better about your life. And that's how death has become such a big part of our existences. Not just death of this physical body, but when we interact and the things we do and the things that benefit us, when it hurts someone, when we have to use someone, take advantage of someone, we get mad at someone, when we hate someone, we have conflict, there's a spiritual death that happens. It kills something in us. You ever have your heart broken? You know what I mean? Ever have your best friend stab you in the back? You know what I mean? Death is much bigger than the ceasing to breathe and the heart beating. It's much bigger than that. That's what Jesus came to show us. And when you really see the darkness that part of our existence is, heartbreak and suffering and losing friends, losing loved ones, and the darkness of evil and fear and hatred and bigotry, Jesus came to just show us that we don't have to be that. And he gave us the power to actually become that again. And like me and Bobby were talking about earlier in the show, it's a process. Because we're used to this life, and we still live in this body, even though God places something in us when we give our life to him. And that spiritual part of us that feels pain, mental pain, that feels mental anguish and suffering, is quickened, as the Bible says, transformed. We are a new creation. We are born again. The old man is dead and the new man has arrived. And what resurrection life gives us is the ability to walk through this world, experience the darkness and the pain of this world, and all those things that can bring us anger, bring us fear, and be able to walk through it with peace. Having a soul that it's at rest, being able to sleep at night knowing that as bad as things are, is a good God, and He loves us. Peace that passes understanding. Jesus said, I came to give you life, and life more abundant. I came to give you peace, not as the world knows peace, because the world can't know peace. They may know lack of conflict, but they don't know that inner rest that can only come with the peace that God gives us. Joy unspeakable, full of glory as we sing sometimes, can only be experienced when you have this life in you. That's what the Christian faith is all about. It's not about preaching hell and hellfire and brimstone and threats and judgment. Are all those part of the big story and the totality of the picture? Absolutely. Because only resurrection life can exist in the eternal. God won't allow what we have become to be our eternity. He just won't allow that. Because we all will just drag each other back into the oblivion of darkness, pain and sin. And that's why He's given us a decision. You know, we can stay in the lives we have, and many of you out there, you will make a lifetime decision of just not wanting to seek, not wanting to even think about God or Jesus, and that's fine. You have the choice to live any life you'd like to live. And just know God still loves you. God is there. If we walk as Jesus did, we're going to love you. We're going to care for you. We're still going to serve you, because that's what resurrection life does to us. It changes us into, we don't have to agree, but God created you. Your eternal destiny is up to you and Him, but you're here in the same realm as we are, and we're going to show you what Jesus showed us. Resurrection life. When Jesus walked out of the grave, made something available to us that we could never imagine. I mean, us that are in this different life still don't quite understand how we could have been changed that much. And so just something to contemplate coming up to Easter, the moment that changed the dynamic of the human story, the moment that was made available to us what once was, what once again will, and what right now could be. So that's the word for the week. This is Pastor Ski of the Russian Wind Biker Church. At the end of the show, you'll see the places that you might want to contact our sponsors. And if you are so led to want to contribute to the furthering of the show, we appreciate those who have contributed, those that continue to give, and we just thank you. And so until next week, this has been Answers from Mars Hill, and this is the word for the week. God bless.